Hello. Today I'm going to go through some history of our planets and their behaviors, as well as some legends about them, leading up to the research I've been working on. Modern science calls astrology a pseudoscience. Most textbooks ignore how important having knowledge of the planets and constellations was for the ancient and medieval worlds. Symbols of the zodiac and planets permeate so much in art, architecture, literature, that it is important for any student of humanities to have at least a minimal understanding of the beliefs surrounding the heavens. Remember that astronomy was the study of the stars, planets, and constellations and their movements across the sky, while astrology was the ancient science of the influence of all those heavenly bodies on earth and on human beings. The 7 planets of the ancient and medieval world included 2 planets that we are now told are not planets at all. The ancients saw the sun and the moon as planets that had an effect on Earth, just as they believed the other visible planets of the solar system did. All of these celestial bodies would have been seen as influential in a variety of ways, and in the order in which they appear from Earth, moving from nearest to furthest away. So, from Earth looking outward, the ancient astrologers believed the 7 planets in order of their influence were Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. It is these 7 planets, the gatekeepers, who may be seen as the Elohim, or plural creator gods, of the Hebrew creation story in Genesis. This name for God is used, for example, where the text is translated, "Let us make man in our image." So, from the dawn of history until around the 17th century, the universe consisted of these 7 planets. The word planet comes from the Greek meaning wanderers or wandering stars. All ancients observed and recorded the planets for 4,000 known years. According to modern astrologers, approximately every 2,000 years, a new astrological age begins. You may have heard of the age of Aquarius. It refers to the idea that we are just entering a 2,000-year period that will be characterized by marks associated with Aquarian personalities. On the positive side of these, it includes such traits as honesty, humanitarianism, open-mindedness, a somewhat scientific mind, and a willingness to learn from anyone. Through what is called the precession of the equinoxes, astrological ages seem to move backwards through the zodiac. So, the 2,000-year period we are leaving is the age of Pisces. The age for the prior 2,000 years would have been the age of Aries, and the period prior to that would have been Taurus, and so forth. We can see this depicted in ancient art with the bulls and rams included. Each planet, sun and moon included, were affiliated with a god or a goddess. Some cultures, like China and India, connected the planets with personal attributes and prediction of future events. There are even associations between parts of the body and the zodiac signs that supposedly govern them. Astrology was considered a requisite study for all educated doctors and scientists until after the French Revolution in Europe. It was also one of the 3 required studies for Freemasons. In the 4th century BC, astronomy began to focus on a scientific side of observing. This caused a split between astronomy, astrology, and religion. The lunar calendar was also replaced with the Gregorian calendar in 1745. It divides the solar year into 13 months of 28 days each. It is therefore a perennial calendar with every date fixed to the same weekday each year. By changing this, they removed the perfect flow of measured time and replaced it with irregular, artificial, and harmonious time system. The advantages of the International Fixed Calendar are: the subdivision of the year is very regular and systematic. Each year has 52 weeks divided into 13 months. Each month has exactly 28 days divided into 4 weeks. In the 16th century, the word planet became much more specialized. Instead of them moving with the stars, the planets came to mean objects that orbited the Earth. While the Sun was still known to orbit the Earth at this time, it was no longer considered a planet. It had become a star that continued to grow and grow. By 17th century, this had all become quite messy. The public had really begun to accept the heliocentric model that the planets orbited the Sun, including the Earth. The Moon was dropped as a planet since it did not appear to orbit the Sun. So, when we learn how the ancients thought of our heavens and how everything is perceived today, one must wonder, how do they travel and how do they affect our Earth plane? All is energy. They must have an effect, as the ancients knew. They run like clockwork on their own unique halo systems. They all move counterclockwise except Venus and Uranus. They all travel the halos and are contained within our realm. They are light. We see it dancing around in a lot of the P900 videos I've seen, as well as looking through binoculars myself. They do not look like NASA's photos. So, what are alignments? They are when planets fall within a specific degree distance of other planets. 2 or more planets form a geocentric alignment. So, do they affect our Earth plane? Yes, certain alignments do affect events on Earth. First, I'm going to share some records from the ancients, and then I'll share some information I've gathered and show you how. In the spring of 685 BC, some events were recorded by the ancients. First, Mercury made electric contact with Earth, a shock they called it, which could have radically altered Mercury's orbit. Second, at the end of the year, Venus disappeared behind the Sun 30 days earlier than what it was expected to. Third, on June 15th, several things occurred. According to ancient recordings, the Sun went into a high activity, and for 1.5 month long series of continual corneal mass ejections, it hurled tons of protons into the surrounding space. The effect was, it caused unusual auroras on Earth. Also, June 15th, the Olmecs note that the Sun was not setting in the proper location. It changed its path, they recorded. This condition lasted for some 40 days. And finally, on June 15th, it was the day of the new moon. Venus and Mercury, located close together in the sky, started blazing like suns. 2 suns were seen battling in the sky, China recorded. A couple of legends that were tied to this event were that Venus, portrayed as Aphrodite, had taken a young boy as a lover, but soon destroyed him with a blast of fire, a thunderbolt. And also, Hesiod mentions Venus and Mercury sacrificed themselves in order to defeat the lords of the underworld and start creation. The next event is Jupiter also received a plasma outpouring from the Sun. It switched into a glow mode on July 9th, and it produced a 3-pronged plume at its north and a gigantic split outpouring at its south. In fact, on this same date, the Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter were all in alignment. On July 4th, Jupiter responded with a returning lightning stroke directed at the Sun. A mass energy was released, seen and recorded worldwide. Its travel was followed for 11 days. Asia and Europe recorded they saw it approaching. The people of the Americas recorded they got a full broadside view as the bolt passed. The plasma bolt launched from Jupiter was known as the lightning bolt of Zeus. This all seems hard to believe, except that these are close and they travel in the layers of the halo system. So, how can this all happen? After reading that bit, it sounds to me like an electrical discharge of a pre-designed trigger of the halo system. Pre-designed electromagnetic paths. When the wanderers hit the pre-designed spots, they release charged particles, making up the solar wind spiral paths along the magnetic field lines. The velocity of each particle as it travels around the field line can be treated similarly to a thermal velocity in an ordinary gas. This means thermal velocity is roughly the speed of sound. It's the signals. So, now I'll show you what I've researched with a few different alignments and recorded Earth events, and what I found is that there are signals sent when these alignments happen. The signals cause very large Earth events in the area that receives the signal. Above stated events of Earth being shocked, the odd auroras, the sun not setting properly for 40 days, and the energy bolts being sent about between the planets are from signals being sent, probably from the alignment of Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter. Some of the recent examples I gathered are August 31st, 2013, we had a sextile alignment and it led to a megaquake, an 8.0 or higher. On February 4th, 2004, we had a square alignment and we had 2 megaquakes that day. On August 17th, 1987, we had a trine alignment and we had a megaquake that day. March 23rd, 2017, there was a square alignment and we had 2 megaquakes and there were 58 erupting volcanoes that day. And on April 14th, we had a Grand Cross alignment and we had a megaquake along with 11 sevens and 10 sixes. So these few examples do show us that these alignments indeed affect Earth events, and possibly the people here as well. All the data I have gathered here, and will continue to gather, will show us how this is all part of a design system that has certain trigger points. When the points are hit from the movement of the celestials, it sends the signals that cause these Earth events. This makes a lot of sense when we think of how there is below us a technical system of plates receiving the signals sent, connected electrically and magnetically to the firmament above. As above, so below. Next, we can take a look at the planets I've recorded and see them moving about on the halo system. On the maps I've made, they're in their correct zodiac signs. This took quite some time to gather the data for this because you can't make the planets move faster to track their movement. However, it's worth it, I feel, because we can, as always, we can see real data and show how it affects us. So, a few things that I learned while we go ahead and watch this is Earth is a transceiver. It continuously absorbs impulses, frequencies, and our signals. This is all energy. It projects upwards and outwards from below through the antenna system. The energy comes out as electromagnetic waves that release as earthquakes, sun and moon movement, winds, tides, and all other Earth events. So, what is a frequency? It is the number of occurrences of a repeating event per unit of time. If these frequencies and signals affect the Earth, do they affect us? I'm figuring yes, they must affect us. We have our own unique frequency as well, and introducing a different vibe would affect the existing vibe, correct? While doing this research, I ran into a little bit of info that the planets do indeed emit a frequency. It ranges between 189 Hertz for Mars up to 455 Hertz for Saturn. This will be the next project that I'm working on, is to find out if and how alignments affect us. So, coming up, we're hoping to be doing a live stream with Santos and share the information, which we know can be helpful to both parties. What we need help with is luminary positioning within the halo system. Once it's done, it can help us work out where each of the Wanderer's individual halo systems are. Now that we're aware there's a technology at play, this changes everything. It gives us many counter explanations that mainstream could never give us, nor would they give us. This truly does give us an answer about why they would lie about the shape of the world. What we really need to think about is how far will these people go to keep the secret? How many people have to die and be silenced just to keep this lie? So, as we watched them, we can see how I played with where to put them a bit. I did decide to leave them on the outer halo until I figured out which halo system that I need to place them on. The best data for that would be real footage of the illuminary and the direction the viewer sees it from their location. Also, when I mapped these, I jumped a few days with each map so we could actually see them moving. They do take time to move around and record. Also, if you note the little R's next to some of the planets, this is showing that they are currently in retrograde on the map date. So that brings up another question. What is retrograde? Well, dictionary.com says it's moving backwards, retiring, retreating. In astronomy, it is moving in the opposite direction of its natural order. Or does it really? We questioned that, and what we will show you in the video FPV put together is as it moves about the halos it's traveling on, it's our perception as it goes around that it is having a backwards appearance. With our angle and perception, it appears to slow down or go backwards, but it's actually traveling the full halo and returning to the point to move to the next halo. By the way, thank you FPV for the great video. Very good work. This is really all I have to share at this time. Thank you for listening, and I'll hand the floor over now.